everybody, and welcome to round 2 of the GT Challenge series, where we head across the pond to Sebring for the American leg of our championship. Erhan Yayoski took his 4th pole and 9th victory in official GT competition last time out at Monza, and today we head to a circuit where he's already won and taken pole before. Welcome then to Sebring, where we hold the second round of Season 4 of the GT Challenge Series. Here to talk you through the day, it's me, Ewan O'Leary, and alongside me it's time to say a very good evening to Paul Buckley. Welcome along.
Yeah, good evening again, Ewan. Another good race ahead of us, and if that image in the background is anything to go by, we've not just come across the pond, but we might be racing in one this evening. It's looking pretty wet out there at the moment. Very shortly for qualifying, and plenty of action out there as everybody scrambles to try and find the grip and get those times in quick and fast before it gets too wet.
Absolutely, we saw some great drama in GT Pro, which happened here on Monday in very, very similar conditions, well, identical conditions pretty much, to this. Even last lap drama, I think it was Yuri Kazdorp who went for a bit of a spin at Sunset Bend, which put him out of a really good point scoring position right up there towards the top end of town, and just dropped away really late on. Which was a real shame for him, but I'm sure we're going to see some very similar drama here today. Qualifying has just kicked off in the last minute or so, and so we're going to be getting into that as soon as the cars actually get out there on the circuit. But just to go back to Monza for a moment, the conditions were unbelievably different to what we're seeing right now. But for the first round of the season, it was fantastic entertainment, and even a surprise winner, I would say, in Philip Dreas, who managed to take the second race. The reverse grid race 2 weeks ago. So I came away from 2 weeks ago in the last round very pleased indeed with how the action was. I was very pleased. As speaking of action, we're seeing a lot of it in qualifying right now. People dashing to get out there as soon as possible. This is what we forecasted because of the forecast that everybody was going to be rushing as quickly as possible to get these times in. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. It looks like the start of the race rather than the start of qualifying this.
It does indeed, and we're seeing already just how little grip there is out there. There's yellow flags popping up here and there, and it looked like even Yayoski was having a bit of trouble keeping the car on the grey stuff, though it's looking particularly shiny with all that water on it. It's still grey underneath, of course. But exactly as we thought, everybody's going out to try and get those times in before the track gets even worse. If it is going to get worse, if the weather stays like this, I'm sure it will. And those times are going to come in thick and fast.
Yeah, they are indeed. Just over 13 minutes to go right now from this 15-minute session. We're currently on board with the championship leader after taking the first race victory of this season. In race 1, the short sprint race that is set by the qualifying order that we're about to see right now, and then race 2, which is the top 10 reversed from qualifying, so it doesn't really matter what you do in race 1, you're still guaranteed to start wherever it says. It doesn't matter how badly your race goes or how well you'll be in the same position as you were before, which I think is a good thing, because sometimes in these reverse grid races you see a bit of jockeying for position going on, people slowing down to try not to finish in certain positions and so on and so forth. We don't really want to see that, so it's a good idea to reverse the qualifying results instead, and it's a much more accurate representation about what the field might look like by the end of the race as well, if we use it on qualifying pace. But here is the RHG eSports man. As I said, 9 victories now in official GT competition here on rFactor 2, 8 of those coming in GT Pro, on his way to 2 titles, of course, but one of them coming here at Sebring, which is very important to note. I think, he's run at many circuits in GT Pro, but having a victory already at Sebring, already in the bag, I guess it kind of gives him that confidence, as if he needed any more to kind of go after this next one now.
Absolutely, knowing that you can perform well at the circuit is always going to benefit going into a race, because you don't have to worry about, am I quick in this sector, quick in that sector. If you've won there before, you're quick enough everywhere to take that win. So I would fully expect to be right up the front end again and battling for race wins and podiums like he was last week. Of course, we saw him take the race win in the sprint race and then battle his way up from the reverse grid all the way up for a podium in the feature race as well. So I'm expecting more of that this week from the RHG driver. It would be even more impressive this week, of course, with the conditions as tricky as they are, even if he has won around here before.
Yeah, the conditions weren't like this, I can assure you, back in Season 1 when he took those, or that victory, should I say, in Sebring on his way to the first ever GT Pro title. Here's Christian Mikel, who was second in pre-qualifying and had a fairly decent run out in Monza, fourth on the event overall, as the Nitro Velix boys were really showing themselves to be very quick indeed. He's going to set the early pace here, but let's see if the next few times can actually beat him or not. Well, Hanyuyoski can, with a 2-minute 9.0 there, a good 7 tenths quicker than the 7th season VEC champion. I was trying to get my words out there, didn't really happen. But yeah, Yoski goes to the front. We go on board with Yumi Nisela, who also had a decent run at things. 8th place in Monza as an overall total for the two events. A Burst Esport car massively sideways in front of him. One of the Audis there, but Nisela doesn't seem to have been halted too much by that. Over the line he goes again. 3rd place on this occasion, but 7 tenths of a margin for this man on your screen right now, that is fairly large, and considering that we're expecting these conditions to actually get worse over the session, that's looking like a pretty unassailable margin this early on.
Yeah, absolutely, proving that his experience around here is absolutely vital, and not only that, but he appears to be very, very comfortable in this very, very wet conditions. Doesn't seem to have phased Erhan Yurovsky at all at the moment in this session, and had a couple of other good times coming in as well, but nothing quite on that level yet, as we do see more times coming in. We've got Krupi up in P2, and Hakkinen's just gone 3rd as well for Cetres Nitro Velox. See how quick the windscreen wipers are having to work to keep the water off the screen. That's just how wet it is, but doesn't seem to phase Hanyovsky at all.
It's not at the moment. Roy McDuff has just slotted into 8th place as well, by the way. Still going quicker is the North Macedonian at the moment. 2 purple sectors in 1 and 2. He's following one of the Audis though. It's going to help him down the Ormond Straight, but not really into Sunset, because they're going to collide if they're not careful. Bit of a slide from the Audi in front as well. Just drifting their way through these corners. Look at the wheel work they're having to do here to just keep it on the straight and narrow. Over the line again. Is it going to be the first 208? No, not quite. Lost quite a lot actually in that final sector as we go to Diogo Silva here, the Portuguese driver for GTC Race Centre. Over the line he goes. He's only actually been into one GT Challenge event, by the way, before 2 weeks ago, but into 13th at the moment. 9th he came in at Monza, as Daniel Stopalski, also in the top 15 after one round, comes towards, or over the line, should I say. He's 8th place at the moment. Fellow Porsche driver Jan Wenger also through Sunset Bend. And you can certainly see that livery, the orange accents on it, very easy to pick out. Let's see if he can pick out a good qualifying result here. Over the line, 25th for him, not really where he wants to start. We saw in the first race at Monza that Nitro Velix were mobbing the first few places, but on this occasion it seems that they're struggling as a group a little bit more. Hakkinen and Mikel are definitely up there, but Rory McDuff has just dropped away a little bit compared to what he was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course De Stout, the 4th Nitro Velix driver, nowhere to be seen at the moment, whether he's been stuck in some traffic or just really struggling with the rain. Can't quite tell, but as you say, they were all grouped up quite nicely in qualifying around Monza, not so around here. So when it comes to reversing the top 10 here in qualifying for the second race, Yovsky's got less of those cars to pass this time round, of course passing 4 of them. If things stay as they are, he'll only have to get past 3. With McDuff being down in 9th and Hakkinen and Mikel in 3rd and 4th, and everybody now just out on another outlap, getting ready to try and set another time, as we're seeing on board with Erhan Yurovsky right now, coming down the Almond Straight to start off another lap, see if we can break into those 208s as we swap over to Johan Kerjo, about to finish a lap in the Virtual Drivers by TX3 Bentley. pretty soon. Just coming down that straight, you can see even the visibility is affected by this rain. The spray and so on coming off the cars. And where is this going to put Johan Kurjan? He's improved in the middle sector, currently sitting in 19th. Not the best first sector though on this lap. We'll just make our way around Sunset and see how Johan Kurjan does as he gets knocked down to 20th by someone else pipping just ahead of him. And where is this lap going to put him? It's not quite an improvement then, so that would be a sign to me the conditions are getting worse, as you can see on Joao Senchau's car as well. Half a second lost in the middle sector, so that rain may be coming down thicker and faster right now.
Yeah, quite possibly, although I did just recently see Adam Baldwin get up into 7th place. He's just gone back to the pit lane right now in that McLaren. Yeah, he's jumped up fairly nicely, just under a second behind Yoyoski. What about Joao Senchau over the line right now? Not really an improvement for him either. Robin Panzart also in the McLaren here for Burst Esport. I think one of his teammates, Cam Rogers, down there with him as well in the Audi. Over the line goes Robin Panzart to 19th position in that McLaren, and another one of these McLarens coming up here. We're expecting, by the way, and this is from discussions that I've had with a couple of the drivers, Robin Panzart was saying that the McLaren is a lot better over a long stint, really. You'd much rather use it in the race than in qualifying. It's got pretty decent top speed, so overtaking should be manageable for those guys, but the consistency over the stint and the way it behaves on the tyres is really the strength of the McLaren, and that's obviously not something that comes into play very often in a qualifying session, so we're expecting an Audi to be on the pole position here. Yoyoski kind of said that to me. He said he'd be very surprised if McLaren was on pole. I'm not sure if it meant that he was going to take it in the Audi, but you can be sure he's gunning for it right now as Fabien Barlet comes over the line. 2.2 seconds away from Yoyoski in 13th position. That's a good 8 tenths down on what he has done previously. Jake de Stout here in the Nitro Velux Audi. This is a very interesting car because his teammates are all in the top 10, but he's not at the moment. This man certainly is at the pole position, but Jake de Stout really not up there with his teammates, which is a little bit of a surprise and a little bit of a disappointment, I have to say.
Yeah, as we were saying earlier, the fourth Nitro Velux car nowhere really to be seen because he's all the way down in 25th at the moment, and he may struggle now to get a lap time in that will put him up the grid, as we've seen even Yoyoski struggling to go any faster at the moment with the way the conditions are developing, and that's really not going to play into Jake de Stout's hands as we only have 3 minutes of the session left. With the weather getting worse, can he actually improve up the grid?
Oh no!
As we see Joao Senchau just tapping the wall on the outside of Sunset to finish off another lap. And trying to drive as much as possible and just running out of grip, I think, on the outside there.
Yeah, just push too hard, just ever so slightly ran it out a little bit too wide, and that wall can collect you very easily. Let's hope that doesn't happen early on in the race. We've seen it in the past where you can call a massive pile up there getting into those tyres, but disappointing for him. Top 4 all in the pit lane. Don't look like they're going to be going out again here in the rest of the session, as Jan Wenginger is in 24th with a little bit of an improvement on that lap. What about Diogo Silva, who was 9th after the Monza round, 21 points off of the lead in this championship. We'll have a look at the championship standings while we're in warm-up, by the way, actually waiting for those, but early on in the season it's not too important just yet. It's obviously you need to accumulate the points, but we're still a long way from the end of this championship. Diogo Silva can't improve. What about Fabien Barlet in the Bentley over the line? Can't improve either. 1.9 seconds away, so he's getting a little bit closer to Yoyoski, but not close enough really. Zoltan Varkingi, another good qualifying for him. He was my surprise of qualifying from Monza, and it's proving that was no fluke. 6th place for him right now, but I'll tell you, the man I'm most impressed with this time around, I have to say, is Mattia Krupi. 12th place in pre-qualifying for Monza. Couldn't get himself inside the top 15 in points after that race, but clearly he's hooked up around the wet weather Sebring International Raceway a lot better than he was in Monza 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely, yeah. Managing to separate Yovski and the Knights of Alex cars of Hakkinen and Mikkel. That's a very impressive time from him. And of course, that will give him a prime position to try and take away a podium, if not a race win, if he can try and chase down Yovski in the sprint race. So plenty of exciting action to see very, very shortly, with qualifying wrapping itself up in less than a minute. As we see Adam Baldwin going across the line and staying P7 for now, just ahead of Dries. And then just behind those two is this man in the Mad for Mini Porsche, Daniel Stupowski. Doesn't look to be improving that, but feeling away into the pits at the end of that lap as well. And I believe for most of the drivers then that will be their qualifying done. Just a few cars left out on the circuit. One of them is this one, Nello Pastorino. Has managed to find some time in the middle sector, but the first sector was quite slow and is indeed pulling in as well. And so this looks like it may be our starting order, short of a late surprise from anyone.
It doesn't look like we're going to get any late surprises at this point. Our very own Cam Roger competing here once again for Burst Esport in the Audi, currently down in last place in qualifying. Unfortunately for him, he'll be hoping for a cleaner lap one than he experienced in the first race at Monza, because he was sent spinning off into the Ascari gravel, I'm afraid, on lap one early on last time out. So let's hope for a bit better this time. Remy Delorme, though, up to 8th place. Good qualifying from him in the end there to get himself in front of Philip Drace by 8 thousandths of a second. David Koloksai, the FSR Academy champion of last year, is over the line now, but not improving here. And here is the second race winner of our championship here for Season 4 in the GT Challenge Series. For NeedRacing.com, it's Philip Drace making his GT Challenge debut. He's certainly never been in the Pro Series, but making a charge for it here this season. And there's no reason to suggest why he can't do it, given the form he showed us 2 weeks ago in Monza. Gabor Hevesi, also a Hungarian driver here for McLaren in a generic livery here for us today. Often does a bit of driving with the likes of Zoltan Varking. He's up in 6th place, sharing endurance cars together in the same team, etc. So they'll know each other well. But 14th position for him at the moment is all he can muster from this qualifying session. Here is how race 1 is going to line up then. Erhan Yoski is going to be in front of Mattia Krupi as he outqualifies him by nearly half a second. The two Nigel Velix cars are 3rd and 4th, ahead of Yimi Nisela, quietly getting himself into the top 5, ahead of Zoltan Varking and Adam Baldwin 6 and 7. Remy Delorme, with that late improvement, is jumped up into 8th. Philip Drace is into 9th, and Daniel Stopalski will be on pole for race 2 with the 10th place here in qualifying. Still a staggering 1.2 seconds off of Yoski, who has torn the field apart today, should I say. Roy McDuff, 11th, ahead of Guillaume Massin. 12th, Fabien Barley, just ahead of Gabor Hevesi, rounding out the top 14. Then we've got Diogo Silva and Liam Rance on the next row, ahead of David Koloksai and Joao Asensio. Robin Panzer is in front of Roland Zux to round out the top 20. And then as we move on down to the final 10, we'll see those guys who have struggled to get to grips, really, with the wet weather conditions that we have seen throughout this event so far, and it will indeed stay this way for the rest. Johan Curzon, 21st, Thomas Vack, Henry Sinnick, surprisingly 23rd, Jan Venginger, 24th, Nico Barkley not inside the top 20, Jake de Stout as well, just a couple of surprises there. Nello Pastorino was unfortunately languishing outside the top 20 for a fair amount of Monza, I'm afraid. Paul August Long got himself in a few incidents. He's 28th today. Cam Roger is going to be bringing up the rear of the field here in 29th for Burst Esport in their Audi. So that is your starting grid for race 1. The top 10 is going to be reversed for race 2, and the positions 11 to 29 are going to stay the same here for this one. But interesting qualifying session here, Paul, but no surprises really about the pole sitter.
No, not at all. Yoski once again showing the pace he's got out there, out qualifying everybody by almost half a second, and showing that he's not just a master around Sebring in the wet as well. I think those that we would have expected to see a little bit higher may have been caught out just because not, of course, everybody's out there fighting for track position as early as they can before the conditions get worse. I think that's caught a few of the named drivers we were expecting to see higher up, likes of Stout, for example, being caught out with traffic, and then the conditions developing and getting worse over time. I think that could play into the reason why they are a bit further down, but of course we know they have pace, so we could expect to see some manoeuvres from them throughout both races to try and battle their way up for better finishing positions. Meanwhile, how is our championship leader going to do? As we take a look at the rest of the calendar, of course, we are at Sebring this evening, and then in just a couple of weeks' time, we're off to Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, a little bit of an odd circuit, that one. The first of two odd circuits, I would say. Lime Rock Park and Loch Drummond, round 3 and 4. Then we go to Spa and Indianapolis, two classics to end it off for season 4. But this is the American leg of an otherwise European Championship, of course, in the middle of the season. Then we head back over here again to Indianapolis, just flying about a little bit, but obviously it's sim racing, so there's no worry about that at all. Then obviously, as you can see, Loch Drummond fictional circuit coming up round 4 on the 23rd of September. Interesting to see how that races, but do note that is on a Thursday and not a Friday, so don't come here on the 24th expecting a race, because we'll have already done it by then. I believe the announcement as to why that is going to be coming soon, but I don't know what it is, so we'll have to I'll find out with the rest of you at home at this point, and of course many who are competing in this, I'd imagine. This is Sebring, the wet weather round that we're seeing this time around. Here's the format, just in case you weren't with us last week, or indeed you've forgotten. 15 minutes qualifying, we've just seen that to set the grid for the 15-minute sprint race, and then the top 10 from qualifying are reversed for the 45-minute race, with the rest of the field staying the same. Of course, if you fancy a go at GT Challenge in Season 5, then you can, because it's open to absolutely everybody. Many splits racing every single Friday and Thursday for round 4. You can get yourself involved if you indeed want to. Many different GT3 cars that you can choose from, of course, but the Audi, McLaren, Bentley seem to be the most popular, with a sprinkling of Porsche up here in the top split as well. Many things to choose from. It's a great format here, Paul. As I said before, I quite like it. The top 10 getting reversed from qualifying is a good idea rather than the race, and it's shown us that we can have a few surprises as well. I wouldn't have pinpointed Philip Dreis for winning a race in this championship so early on at Monza, but he managed to come up with the goods last week, and that's 2 weeks ago, and that's exactly what this kind of format brings.
Absolutely, yeah. And not only that, but it does mean that we get to see the likes of Erhan Yovski and the Knights of Alex guys have to battle their way through as well in the feature race. They don't just get to set a time in qualifying and then walk away with all the points for the race week. They've got to fight for the feature race points as well, as we saw last week. And as you can see on the right hand side of this slide as well, the bonus prize pool. So any GT Pro prize money that gets deducted from the GT Pro drivers when they receive penalties will be given out at the end of the GT Challenge season to the top drivers, which is a nice added bonus for those in this series coming up at the end. Of course, we don't know how much that will be or exactly who that will go to just yet, with the prize pool still building up as the GT Pro season goes forwards, but that is the idea behind it, and I really like that, of course. And then we got the road to GT Pro Season 5. So at the end of this season, the top 5 from the GT Challenge are directly promoted into that GT Pro for Season 5. Anybody that finishes 6th to 10th in this series will go into the relegation race, where they can fight for their seat in GT Pro. So finishing 6th to 10th, not necessarily a guarantee that you're going to be here for another season. You can go and race with some of the bottom drivers from GT Pro to try and take their seats away from them. And the reverse happens in the bottom 10 from GT Pro. As you can see there, 21 to 25 go to relegation, and 26 to 30 will drop out and join us in GT Challenge for Season 5. Of course, you can see on the right there as well, as we were saying, there's multiple splits for the GT Challenge. So round 1 and round 2 results will determine the splits for round 3. And then going forwards, it'll be rounds 2 and 3 just for round 4, round 3 and 4 for round 5, and round 4 and 5 for round 6. They're also filled up dynamically every round based on standings order to give everybody a fair chance to fight at the top, which is another great way that we'll be able to see some drivers trying to make their name for themselves in rFactor esports.
Absolutely. And here are those guys who are threatening to get into Season 5. Let's have a look. Johan Jajowski is currently in one of those spaces. So is Philip Dreas. Turka Hakkinen looking to bounce straight back up as well. Christian Mikel and Adam Baldwin are the top 5 right now. And then just outside you've got Roy McDuff, Jake De Stout and Jimmy Nisela, who are all 6 and 7 points adrift at the moment. Don't forget it's the top 5 who automatically go through. And then 6 to 10 are those who are going to be in the relegation racing. You see Zoltan Barkingi filling up the final of those spots, a couple of points in front of Daniel Stapowski. And if you're wondering how they've got so many points, points are added for every split that there is. So if you see what I mean. So the top splits will be getting the most points as kind of a base thing, and then the positional points added on top of that, whereas if you're in the bottom split, then no points added, it's just the positional splits. So it all adds up like this. We've got no different standings for different splits and confusing things like that. It's just one big championship with a lot of points at the top end of town. Here's the top 30 we've just seen. Henry Sinek is just outside of the top 15 at the moment. You see our Cam Roger in 21st there. Danny Kish, who wasn't here in split 1 last time out, but presumably in the second split, is in 24th, and he's the first one that I can spot not in split 1 for this one. Giuseppe Pastore is a similar one, Daniele Canestrazzi as well. And if you notice these split 2 names that I'm reading off, these are not small names in the rFactor 2 scene. Some very big names, not even in the top split of rFactor 2's GT Challenge series here in Season 4. It's just a very, very competitive series indeed. And not many spaces for all of these competitive drivers to get into. No,
absolutely, and you see just from those standings there, it's already tight at the top and all the way down. In fact, of course, this man Johan Jajowski leading the championship, but only by 1 point from Philip Dreis at the moment. And of course, that can all change throughout the race. We are expecting another stellar performance from the R8G driver, but in the wet conditions, you never know what to expect. So we could see some changes throughout that championship order throughout this race, especially as we've got some of the drivers that perhaps performed pretty well last week, struggling with the wet weather and the way that qualifying panned out before. But this man still managing to stay on top of it, and Jajowski starting on pole for the sprint race, and of course that will translate into P10 for the feature race. Not that it posed him any issues last time out.
Yeah, he controlled the race very nicely after the start. He came under a little bit of fire into the first chicane, but that was about it. After that, it was a done deal, and he set sail, something which he might be doing a little bit today for other reasons. As you can see, the guy's having having difficulty controlling these cars. A lot of opposite locks going to be used today, and a lot of good car control. It's all about having the feel in the car today, really, rather than raw car speed. You need that kind of thing in the wet weather. It's all about who can get accustomed to the surface, and driver skill is going to come to the fore much more than any car attributes today, you would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. I get the feeling from, especially from having watched the GT Pro on Monday, we're going to need a bit of Eurobeat in the background of this one. There's going to be drifting all over the place. I think they were on about being like Initial D around here on Monday for the GT Pro. I'm sure we'll see very similar scenes this evening with the conditions very wet once again, as we're taking a look now at Paul Ruslan, who's winding up his warm-up. And back to Johan Jajowski, who's using up all the time he can. And as I say that, he pulls over and decides to call it a day for the warm-up as well. But all the drivers trying to use as much time as they can to just get the best feel they can for the cars before we go out racing. Of course, in these conditions, any extra time practicing is going to be absolutely vital, just to learn where there's going to be grip and where you may struggle a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's It's all very necessary. I expected to see the Porsches a little bit further up. You see in real life they're often exceptional in the wet weather conditions, but not with a too great of a performance. Jan Wenger couldn't get inside the top 20. Daniel Stopalski had a decent Monza, finishing in 11th position after that event, but not a amazing qualifying for him. We'll see how the race treats him. Let's have a look at the starting grid then. Johann-Joski is going to be alongside Mattia Krupi in first, and it's an all-Nigel Velix second row with Turka Hakkinen leading off Christian Mikel for an all-Audi top four. Then Jimmy Nisler in the first non-Audi, fifth position for him ahead of Zoltan Barkingi. Adam Baldwin, who got a podium in the second race at Monza, is in seventh ahead of Remy Delorme in eighth. Race 2's winner last time out, Philippe Dreis, is in ninth ahead of Daniel Stopalski, who's going to be on pole for race 2 here today. Rory McDuff was just pushed out of that position. He's 11th ahead of Guillaume Mas in 12th. Fabien Bolle is in front of Gabriel Hevesi on the 7th row of the grid, and Diogo Silva a little bit disappointed with 15th ahead of Liam Ramps. 11 positions behind his teammate there for Satellite Racing in 16th. David Coloxite is 17th ahead of João Asensio in 18th. Robin Panzar heads Roland Zux in the 10th row. Johan Curzon ahead of Thomas Vack on the next. Then we've got another one of the Porsches alongside Henry Sinnick, who is in a disappointing 23rd. And a couple more disappointments here on the next row. Nico Barkley and Jake de Stout, two big names, a long way down the field ahead of Nello Pastorino. Paul August Lahn in one of the Bentleys is in 28th for Volante Racing, and Cameron Roger is bringing up the rear of the grid, 29th position for Burst Esport here today. That is your grid, 15 rows and 29 cars, all of these guys ready to get racing once again, and you can imagine this is going to be the most high intensity lap 1 of the entire season.
Absolutely, yeah. Not just that, I feel like the entire race is going to have some intensity to it because of all these big names, of course, as we're seeing. Cam Roger, who we know has usually got more pace than 29th, all the way down at the back of the grid, and then just a few cars ahead of him. Some more big names, as you said, during that rundown of the grid. So I'm expecting some action from those guys trying to battle their way back to where we'd expect them to be. So there'll be action up and down the circuit, as well as everybody just trying to fight to keep the car on the road, really. With you can see just how wet it is with all the spray being kicked up just from this formation lap. So when we get to full racing speed, it's going to be a real struggle out there for every single one of these guys.
Yeah, and especially if you're at the back of the field, because with these onboard shots are a better clue than any, really. This is no joke, and this is what these guys will be seeing, but maybe even worse. You see in the middle of the pack, Rory McDuff with a lot of cars around. You can see maybe a couple of rows. You can see Adam Baldwin just is because he's got a very bright white car just in front. But other than that, you can just see bits of carbon fibre and some silhouettes, but nothing really that you can pin a marker to. And that's going to make things very difficult through the first lap here. Let's hope it stays clean, though. Let's hope they all stay safe throughout the opening stanza of this race. It's going to be very, very good action, though, for us. A feast for the spectator, certainly. The first 2 rows are filled with Audis at the moment. German machinery dominating this one with 5 in the top 6, as well as you can see in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Jimmy Nisler infiltrating that 5th place for him, but it's Johann-Joski who's going to be heading the field here with his 5th pole position in GT Pro or Challenge competition here for Sebring's first race. GT Challenge Season 4. Race 1 at Sebring is underway. Johann-Joski gets us going. Turka Hakkinen with a good start to get alongside Mattia Krupi. It's 3 and 4 wide in the background. Somebody's already gone round. I think it might be Guillaume Mas who's gone around. Oh, even before we've got to turn 1. An inside line for Turka Hakkinen, who gets second place in this race now. Mattia Krupi is going to try and come back at him in the Musto car, but he can't. Jimmy Nisler has made a good start as well, with Christian Mikel being pushed out for 5th place. Adam Baldwin is up to 6th, but unfortunately our fears were realised a little bit on the rundown to turn 1. There are some guys spun around already, some good starts as well. The inside line prevailed massively through there.
Yeah, absolutely, and the wet weather already showing just how difficult it can be, and Krupi suffering, of course, from Hakkinen getting past him, and the same for Mikel with initially getting past him. Baldwin's up positions. Seems like everybody's shuffling around quite a lot as we try and find a grip on this first lap, and we're seeing already all over the place.
Oh!
And that's contact between Jan Venniger and who was not quite sure who that was that hit him.
Dear me, it's a good start from Venginger. He was up inside the top 15 very briefly. You can see it's very, very tight here in the back end of the top 10. Daniel Stopalski going side by side with Remy Delorme at the moment for ninth position. Squeezing there was Delorme, and Stopalski can't get through for the moment, so they have to stick in line. Just look at this though, absolutely crazy in the mid-pack. Unfortunately, we have seen a couple of guys go around. Guillaume Mas was spun around on the run down towards turn 1. David Koloksai has gone around as well. At some point, I think Johan Kurjon's made a poor start as well. He's down in 27th, I believe, down there at the moment. He's up to 25th now, but he made a poor start. He's already over 20 seconds off of the leader, Hani Yoski, who has converted that pole position into a good start indeed. So yeah, a lot of moving and shaking as we have just under 30 minutes to go already. It's going to be, well, not very many laps around here because the track's quite fairly long and made even longer by the wet weather conditions right now. They go through the bumps of Sunset Bend. No sunset today, there can be no doubts about that, but Roy McDuff making a good start right now, 11th place. Well, he's still on the road. I suppose you can count that as a good start. 12th position after starting 11th, but Yoski has converted. It's very, very close in the mid-pack, and I have to say, the McLaren looking very strong. Even Nisela 4th place already, and he's all over the back of Mattia Krupi for 3rd.
Absolutely, it was a stellar lap from Krupi, but I think compared to those around him, he's suffering a bit, as we do see that's Diogo Silva dropping 1, maybe 2 positions. As that's Fabian Bola making his way through as well, so very opportunistic little dive from the Bentley driver. Steals another place away, and it's not what Diogo Silva would have wanted, but the guys up front, yeah, it seems on race pace, Krupi may be struggling in this wet weather a little bit as he already dropped 1 place to Hakkinen, and we're seeing side by side now, Fabian Bolla's having to defend now, and just about holds on for the time being. And you can see 2 McLarens side by side behind him as well. So this battle's turning into a little 3-car battle as we head around the track once more. And still side by side, you can see diving around in the background as Silva's trying to make his car as wide as possible, almost being pushed around now. And some great defensive driving, and this is one of those conditions where you need a little bit of patience, but also with 11 minutes, you can't really afford to have any patience. And now we see another McLaren driver, Jimmy Nisela, as we cut across to a replay what's going on here with Gabor Hevesi. This is the spin at the start.
This is what happened at the start to Guillaume Mas. He's trying to anticipate here Gabor Hevesi, and Guillaume Mas was also trying to get past Daniel Stopalski. The door just shut there, and Guillaume Mas goes for a spin. Gabor Hevesi gets away with it, but he's detached from the back of the field right now. David Koloksai is a DNF. Johan Kurjan has just completed a pit stop, and in GT Challenge, if you're making a pit stop, then it's gone wrong because you don't need to at any stage in the event. So that is clearly unscheduled for him. Liam Rance has made a good start. Actually, both of the satellite race, all 3 of the satellite racing cars have made a good start. You see Nisela up there, but Liam Rance is knocking on the door of a top 10 right now, and Henry Sinnick is into 14th. He's up 10 places very nearly from his starting position of 23rd, which was pretty poor by his standards, as Daniel Stopalski was going wide through turn 1 there. I believe he might have lost a position to Roy McDuff now, as off the road in the background there. I think that was Johan Curzon rejoining, although I'm not entirely sure. This is his teammate Fabien Barley, just in front of Diogo Silva, and of course Henry Sinnick, as the battles just in front continue on. Roy McDuff trying to get through on Stopalski. Liam Rance gets through on both of them. Fantastic driving from the Satellite Racing boys so early on in this race. Clearly their cars weren't really geared up for qualifying, but in the race they've been absolutely fantastic so far.
Absolutely, yeah. They've clearly been working together to try and find a setup that works, and it's worked really well for them, as they're all absolutely flying out there at the moment in those McLarens. And I wonder if maybe they saw the GT Pro on Monday and maybe anticipated a bit of rain. Maybe they've set up their cars a little bit more towards that, which of course a risky move, but in the situation where it does rain like it is, it definitely pays off. as we cut across to another replay. And what's this going on here? It's on board with Liam Rance. I think this was that move. Just so close to the car in front, just trying to see. That's one of the Knight of Alex cars off the road, and that itself was how he jumped those two as they were battling away. Kept his nose clean, nipped up the inside of them, stole the positions.
Yeah, so Roy McDuff went off there down into turn 3, which is what it's called, even though it's really turn 2, I suppose. Had to cut across the grass at 4, and in rejoining, got connected a little bit with Stopalski. They both went wide, and the seas parted for Liam Rance there. Was able to slip on by very nicely. Side by side again, though, with Stopalski on the inside line into Sunset Bend, and that's really where you want to be, especially in the wet weather conditions. And writ large for you just there, 9th position for the Mad for Mini Motorsport Porsche. Not a great exit from Liam Rance either, although Roy McDuff not able to capitalise, I don't think. He'll be in the slipstream, but can't really do anything. Turn 1's not a braking zone that you have to really think about. So, yeah, it's just a wait and see kind of situation. Bit of a slide for Stopalski on the exit as Liam Rance closes in under brakes. The Porsche doesn't seem to be great under brakes there, I have to say, but he's coping with it for now. Is Daniel Stopalski over 12 seconds off the leader, Hanyoski, and drifting towards 3 seconds off of Remy Delorme. These guys are getting sucked into their own battle so much here that they are starting to lose the leaders a little bit.
Yeah, and I think this battle may go on for the remainder of the race, because every time we get to a corner, we see Liam Rance closing right in on the back of that Porsche, and then as soon as we get into the traction zone coming out of it, it seems that Daniel Stopalski's got more ability to get the power down. He just pulls back away again. And as we see cars getting close together everywhere, this is still that battle for the 3rd podium position. Matthew Krupe doing a great job so far, keeping Yumi Nishila behind him. For the Musto GD Esports driver, only lost 1 position so far with that surprise qualifying result. We weren't expecting him to be that far up the grid, but clearly showing he's got some pace in the wet weather around Sebring and putting it to good use, keeping the McLaren behind him at the moment with just 6 minutes to go. And keep that up, he will be on for a podium. This is back to that battle for 9th and 10th. Liam Rance once again all over the back of Daniel Stopalski, but watch, as soon as we get into the traction zone, that Porsche just starts pulling away and pulling away. And that's going to be frustrating for Liam Rance, because that's a bit of a wiggle. That's going to definitely help Liam Rance. Porsche's not pulling away this time. A bit of a wheel, couple of wheels on the gravel, and you can see with the slipstream, Liam Rance climbing all over the back of him, pulls across to the outside, going down towards Sunset. Is he going to try and switch back throughout the corner as he gets very, very close to the diffuser? Trying to barge his way up the inside, drifting a little bit, very, very close between these two. Side by side almost, but can't quite get the move done, and now he's got to watch his mirrors because Roy McDuff's coming for him.
Yeah, here's Roy McDuff on board with him right now. Liam Rance did try that over and under. Oh, into turn 1 he goes steaming in, and Daniel Stopalski goes out wide. Pinball into turn 1, and Liam Rance loses another place. He might lose 2. Diogo Silva's on his inside and braking late in the McLaren. 3 wide very nearly into turn 3, and that is not going to fit. Diogo Silva is on the inside still here into turn 5, and he's going to get it done into 11th position. Here comes the other satellite racing car of Henry Sinnick, not too far behind, with Fabian Barley in tow. So this battle could grow yet further in this race. Into the hairpin they come right now. Liam Rance hasn't really got anywhere to go here because Diogo Silva's on the inside, but he's broken too late. Can Liam Rance get the undercut? They clash through the chicane, and they just about make it out the other side all right, unlike Kian Benginger managed a little bit earlier on. He's down in 20th right now, but these guys still battling for 11th position. Liam Rance is now holding it. Diogo Silva into the back of him very nearly, and Henry Sinnick's into the back of him, so it's all going on, a lot of contact. And the battle just seems to be growing by the corner because these guys are all over each other. They're slowing each other down so much that it's helping everybody else get back in. And it's just energising this fight even more. Great entertainment for us, but not very efficient if you're trying to earn points.
Absolutely, you can see the graphic up on the bottom right of the screen there, the battle for 9th and 10th. There's like 5 cars involved in this, and I wouldn't want to predict now, even with 4 minutes of the race left, what order they're going to finish in, because as we've seen, one mistake can be so costly. As we take a look a little bit further ahead, Remy Delorme taking a look on Philip Dryce as we head down the Ullman straight towards Sunset once more. I don't think he's going to be close enough for a move right now, but he's definitely going to be thinking about it at some point. He closes up so quickly under braking. Of course, both of these guys in McLarens, and it just seems that the BHK Esports driver carrying a lot more speed, able to be a lot more confident into the corners, and that's just allowing him to close in on Philip Dryce every time we reach one. And as we switch now to a replay of Diogo Silva watching that battle unfold up ahead, you can see there he sees the action going on ahead and thinks, well, that's my opportunity, time to strike. And strike he does, slots back in behind Liam Rance, sees the door banging there, just a little bit of if-car gap going on there, but it worked out for him. Saw the door was even slightly open and put his foot in.
Yeah, he did stick his nose in there a little bit, but that was Roy McDuff, by the way, on the left-hand side of your screen, just nipping through on everybody, which was very good to see. Very consistent driving here, once again, from Adam Bobbin and Philip Dryce, just outside of the top 5 right now, but they're in good places for race 2, which is exactly what they did 2 weeks ago, and they ended up in 2nd and 5th place, respectively, in the standings afterwards. So if they continue to do this for the next 6 rounds, then they'll be with a one-way ticket to GT Pro here in Season 5. The race leading Erhan Yoski has got over 3 seconds right now, but this is the battle for 2nd that's going on behind. Mattia Krupi's finally settled into this one. He struggled to get into a rhythm early on in this race. He was under pressure from Jimi Nisela, but now he's starting to apply the pressure himself onto Turkka Hakkinen, who was relegated from Season 3 of GT Pro, where he's failed to score a podium and had overall a little bit of a disappointing season. But he's one of 3 relegated drivers trying to earn their seat back as we go to a recovering Guillaume Mas here alongside Robin Panzar, who's not having the greatest day he's ever had in a race car. It's so disappointing when so early on your hopes are dashed like they were for Guillaume Mas, and look who he's joined up with. It's Hevesy versus Mas Part 2, it seems. These two came into contact mere metres into the race earlier on, and they're back together again right now with a minute and a half to go, just over.
Absolutely, and yeah, that fight's going to go on to the end, as they all are. And we flick back towards the front of the field now with what is, I'm sure, is going to be probably the final lap of the race. Looking at the timer, depends on when Yovski crossed the line, and it seems they're going 2 by 2 around at the front. We've seen obviously the battle with Hakkinen and Krupi, and then Nishala and Mikel as well, and now Philip Dryce and Remy Delorme we're watching on now for 7th and 8th, as well as these two. Yara Senchal trying to go around the outside of Paul Auguslana, is it coming out of turn 1 even, and Bentley driver just sliding up the inside then and holding on to that position for the time being, but it's very, very close still. You can see Yara Senchal sniffing around the back of that Bentley, trying to find a way through as time does run out on this race, and trying to make up any position they can. There's another flash of yellows, I'm sure, for somebody travelling across the gravel a little bit, as we've seen throughout this race, but nothing too major as they've gone away nice and quickly. Back to the battle at the front there, Mattia Krupi very close to the back of Turkka Hakkinen now.
Yeah, this is going to be the final lap of the race and final opportunity for Krupi to get through here on Hakkinen. Let's not forget Hakkinen's going to be starting in front of Krupi in race 2, so the Musto driver really does want to get through here, but doesn't look like he can with that exit from Tower Corner. Not quite good enough, I wouldn't have said, but Paul Augustin we just saw there. 13 positions gained in this race, a phenomenal effort from him to get inside the top 15 after a poor qualifying by his standards, but a great race. Daniel Stopalski has not stopped looking in his rearview mirrors throughout this one, so Liam Rance is all over the back of him on this occasion, well, still is, after he gave him a serve into turn number 1, but that's all over now. And so is this race very nearly. The clock has ticked down to 0, and we're on board with the man who is going to win it. He did exactly this 2 weeks ago at Monza. He's going to repeat it for his 2nd race win of the season. Erhan Yoski wins race 1 at Sebring to take his 10th victory in GT Pro or GT Challenge competition. Turkka Hakkinen holds on to 2nd place ahead of Mattia Krupi and Jimi Nisela, who comes home 4th ahead of Christian Mikel. Remy Delorme can't quite get past Philip Dryce for 7th place, and a little bit further back it looks like Daniel Stopalski is going to hold on in front of Liam Rance and Diogo Silva, who finished in 11th and 12th respectively. Wet weather at Sebring certainly has delivered an exciting race for us here today, but a familiar winner in Erhan Yoski.
Absolutely. Once again, showing us why he's won two GT Pro titles. Of course, dropping to GT Challenge this season after having a pretty poor season 3. And here he is then in the Audi. Of course, pretty much lights the flag victory for Erhan Yoski once again. And another impressive win. I'm sure we'll see plenty more of those. There's confirmation of that win then for Erhan Yoski, finishing ahead of Turk Hakkinen and Mattia Krupi. Finishing off the podium for race 1, Yumi Nishila P4, just ahead of Christian Mikel and Adam Baldwin. Philip Rice just clinging on to P7 with Remy Delorme P8, Rory McDuff P9, and Daniel Stupowski holding on to 10th position in the sprint race. A little bit further back, Liam Rance has to settle for 11th after all his fighting throughout the race, with Diogo Silva just behind him in 12th. Another one of the satellite racing cars in Henry Sinnick in 13th, ahead of Fabian Barlet 14th. Paulo Ruslana, really impressive sprint race from him, up to 15th position by the time we finished, with Yara Sanchal just behind him. Nico Barclay also made up a few positions, finishing 17th, with Thomas Fash just behind him in 18th. Jan Venniger and Zoltan Vakonyi will round out our top 20 for this race 1. We just need to take one quick look at the drivers that finished in the back 9, be it through starting positions and so on. Robin Pansar for Burst Esports in 21st, with Guillaume Mas down in 22nd, and Gabor Hevesi, who he had that tangle with at the very, very start of the race, just behind him in 23rd. Jake de Stout, disappointing 24th for the Light of Alex drive out with the final satellite racing car of Nello Pastorino just behind him. Cam Roger gaining a few places in that race, started 29th, finishing 26th with Roland Zooks and Johan Kircher behind him, and of course David Kalotsai retiring from that race fairly early on. So that's how they finished in race 1. Of course, we now reverse the top 10 from qualifying to the grid for the feature race, and of course triple the distance. Surely that means triple the action.
Well, we'll wait and see, but I'm certainly hopeful, because Daniel Stupowski is going to be on pole position, and if you were just watching Daniel Stupowski for any of that race there, you'll know that his race was quite exciting, and he was looking behind him for quite a lot of the race and defending, so that bodes well for us. Hopefully there's a big train for the lead of the race and a lot of excitement throughout, and a similar finish to GT Pro here at Sebring, where it went right down to the wire, right towards the very end. But Burst Esport were very successful on that occasion. Not quite as successful on this one, I'm afraid, for those guys, which is a bit of a shame, really, for them. But, these things do happen. The top 10 will be reversed, and it's all about the main race now. Just a word of warning, by the way. It's difficult to do the maths in the championship right now, which is understandable, and it doesn't really bother us too much because we're only on round 2. Here is the format, by the way. We're about to see that 45-minute main race with the qualifying reversed, of course. But the sprint race has points for the top 15 here in the GT Challenge Series, with 20 going to the victorious driver, and then 2 points gap between all of them down to 6th, and then it's 1 point down to 15th. 1 point gaps down to 15th, should I say. And then the main race, 35 points for the victory in the main race, which is the reversed race, let's not forget. So it is weighted fairly heavily towards the main race, where we do see reverse grids. So it does keep this championship exceptionally close, and it allows those who are, anybody in the top 10 really, to be right up there. Thinking of guys like Philip Dreas and Alan Baldwin, who we saw last time. They're right up there, despite the fact they were only just qualifying inside the top 10. They can be right up there with good performances in the main race like we saw last time.
Yeah, exactly. Philip Dreas was the one I was going to point out for that. Of course, just trailing Erhan Yoski by 1 point at the moment after round 1, of course, with his win from the feature race last week. So, those points for this 45-minute race are definitely vitally important, which is why we see the likes of Erhan Yoski battling as hard as he did last week to climb up and try and get as high as possible. Throughout that, just looking down the rest of the grid, of course, we saw Adam Baldwin was fighting Philip Dreis right the way to the end. He's still sitting in a decent position in the championship as well after that result. Down in 5th, of course, just 8 points off Erhan Yovski, so he'll be looking for another good finish this week. Say we saw him fighting with Philip Drace all the way to the very, very end of the feature race at Monaco, trying to drag on that fight as long as he could, but couldn't quite get it done. Maybe we'll see something different this week. Maybe in these conditions he'll be able to find a way through if they do meet each other on the road this time out.
Yeah, let's wait and see. I've just been looking through the championship standings, by the way, and those who are inside the top 10 who have had a bad race, and I can't find anybody who's really had a poor race. They all managed to find themselves up there. Maybe Jake the Stout could be counted as one of those who had a poor one, but looking outside of the top 10 for who really had a good race, and I can only really see Daniel Stopowski from 11th having a good event in that occasion. Really, not many others outside of the top 10 really had a good go at this, so that is a bit weird to see. We're already seeing the kind of top guys getting up the order in this one, and getting themselves up towards GT Pro. As we mentioned, the top 5 will be going straight through. The next 5 will be in that relegation race where they have the opportunity to get into GT Pro, the format that we're so familiar with after these few seasons now. But yeah, very interesting first race. The top 10 is going to be reversed. We saw at times in Monza that overtaking was a little bit on the tricky side for some of these guys, certainly, but in the wet at Sebring, you can be sure it's going to be even more edgy. I'll say these overtakes are going to be even more nervy, and these guys are going to be very anxious about making them, I would say.
Absolutely, because there is a lot on the line, of course, with all the points being in this race, or most of them anyway. Just going back to what you were saying about drivers outside the top 10, I'm just taking a look through, and I think the standout's going to be Mattia Krupi. If he can get a good result here, he'll be down in 32nd in the standings going into this round. So looking at where he was before and following the first race here, where he's going to be going out of this round of the championship, he's set to gain quite a few places.
He is indeed, but is that enough? This is David Coloxide, by the way, not me. This is the Amiga Sim Racing car that retired so early on from the first race, which is really unfortunate for him, because he didn't really have a great. He did have an all right first event, I suppose. 14th position for him on that occasion. 8 points outside of the relegation race, and 22 outside of the automatic. I hesitate to say automatic promotion because that references another sport, I suppose. But the automatic seat in GT Pro in the 5th season of what will be GT Pro next year, you'd imagine. But yeah, David Coloxide, unfortunate to see the retirement so early on. We did see a lot of chaos early on, actually. We did expect it because of the wet weather conditions. And it wasn't really a surprise. I think there was so much going on that we weren't actually able to catch it all, and we didn't quite see what happened to Coloxide. But it was very unfortunate for him, and he's going to need to pick himself up very, very quickly indeed if he wants to do well in this championship, get into those top 10 spots, which are so important.
Absolutely, yeah. As you say, there was so much action going on track throughout that first race that I think it would have been impossible to try and keep up with everything. Unfortunately, we weren't able to keep up with what happened to Coloxide, but as you say, hopefully it hasn't knocked his confidence too much going into the feature race, and he'll be able to pick himself up and dust himself off and make as many positions up as he can throughout this race. As we take a look at Nello Pastorino's warm-up at the moment, and it's still very, very wet out there. You can see the windscreen wipers working overtime to try and give the drivers some vision out the front of those cars, and just from this onboard you can see as well, if you weren't aware of it, just how bumpy Sunset Bend really is around Sebring. That's one element of difficulty, if I can get my words out, around this circuit already, and then you add in the rain as well, and suddenly it's incredibly difficult. Of course, this circuit is an old Army airfield, which explains why it's quite as bumpy as it is, but it definitely becomes very, very challenging.
It also explains quite how flat this circuit is, the abandoned airfield, although it doesn't really mean much because in this region you'd be hard pressed to find any kind of rise in the road. You can pretty much walk from the beach straight into town without even noticing on occasion, because it just is incredibly flat around here. And Sunset Bend is very aptly named indeed, because you do get a lot of sunsets around here. There's no mountains to hide behind or anything like that, so it's just an extremely flat part of the world. But that does mean on occasion, then these bumps adding into that the water doesn't clear very easily. We've seen Sebring 12 hours in the past that have been halted and neutralised because of the weather in the past, and this is going back a long way. Hopefully, well, I say hopefully, probably nobody watching this will have been even alive back then, never mind remember, but in the late 60s there was a very late 12 hours of a very wet 12 hours of Sebring that I want to say 67, but don't quote me on it, was exceptionally wet. And it's worth looking up because the photos of it are quite extraordinary, and nothing like today. You think this is bad, you need to have a look at that. But yeah, it's certainly going to feel bad to these guys. Paul Augustin was one of the most impressive drivers from that first race, finishing in 15th position after 28th off of the start. First of all, for him to be able to get through the carnage of the first few laps was an achievement within itself, but then to push on forward from that and get up into the top 15. Exceptional drive from Paul Augustin for Volante Racing, and yeah, just hats off to him after that one.
Absolutely, it was an incredible race one for the Bentley driver, and I'm sure we'll see some very similar moves from him throughout the feature race as well, as we now take a look at Liam Rance, who he was definitely in the wars throughout the sprint race earlier on. Saw him all over that fight for the final place in the top 10, having to settle for 11th at the end of it, and I'm sure he'll be getting the elbows out and trying to make some moves again in the feature race to make up those positions he wasn't quite able to in that first race, as well as this man, Cam Roger, made up a few positions in all the carnage in the first race, and we'll be trying to make up a few more, I'm sure, through the feature.
Yeah, kept himself fairly quiet away from our cameras actually, for Cam in that first race, just getting overtaken by Liam Rance down the inside into 3, but having a little nibble into 5, excuse me, and then a bit of a slide for the Audi through there. The McLaren certainly showed itself to be very strong over the stint though, and we're expecting in the 45-minute race coming up for it to be very good. Ron Panzo was telling me that it does have good straight line speed and overtaking shouldn't be too difficult, but the Audi that we're on board with right now, talking to Erhan Yoski about this, but that it can navigate the bumps very, very well indeed. And in terms of that raw pace, especially over one lap, the Audi does just have the edge, and the traction that it has out of these slow corners can be put to good use as long as you keep the rear tyre temperatures in check, is what Erhan told me. So yeah, be watching out for those in the coming race though. 45 minutes coming up though after this warm-up is over, and plenty of guys like this man aiming to get up there, and maybe we'll see a surprise race winner here once again. Daniel Stapowski holding on for pole, why not?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the surprise result last week, and we could well see it again. Of course, with the conditions as tricky as they are, anything can happen. So don't go anywhere, because we're just under a minute to go in the warm-up. We'll be starting that feature race very, very soon. Of course, we saw this man, Adam Baldwin, trying to race for that win last week, taking it all the way to the checkered flag, but not quite able to pull it off. Be trying to do that again in the Juices car. And there'll be plenty of fighting up and down the grid, plenty of drifting around the corners as we see. It looked like Adam Baldwin was getting himself a little bit of a drift on through Sunset there as well. All the bumps and the water around. And as warm-up comes to a close, we're getting ready to go for our feature race.
Adam Baldwin will be in the upper half of the top 10 for this race coming up here. Juices Motorsport Club driver who came up short just about in the second race in Monza. The feature race, the main race if you want to call it that, as opposed to the sprint race of the first time around here in these events. We're at Sebring for the second round of the GT Challenge Series here in Season 4. We'll be heading off to Lime Rock Park in 2 weeks, where I imagine lap traffic may even come into it, because it's a very short circuit around there, but a fairly long one on our hands here today, over 2 minutes in the wet weather conditions, and so we're going to be seeing just about 20 laps, maybe just over that. We only got 7 in for the 15 minutes of race 1, but just around about 20 laps is expected for race 2 of round 2 here at Sebring International Raceway. And here we go for the main race. This is your starting grid. It's going to be Daniel Stopowski in the Porsche alongside Philip Drace, looking to repeat his Monza success in second. Remy Delorme sneaks himself into third ahead of Adam Baldwin, who missed out very closely just 2 weeks ago. Zoltan Varking is in the top 5 once again ahead of Jimi Nisula, who had a strong first race. Then it's Naito Velix on the 4th row, sharing the grid here once again for the 4th time this season it will be now. Mattia Krupi in 9th place ahead of Erhan Yoski in 10th. Roy McDuff just missed out and he's 11th ahead of Guillaume Mas, who had a disastrous race 1. He'll be in 12th. Fabian Barley is in 13th. Gabriel Hevesy was causing that incident with Guillaume Mas. He'll be 14th ahead of Diogo Silva and Liam Runts, and all McLaren 8th row. David Coloxai, who retired from that first event, is going to be in 17th position ahead of João Asensio in 18th. Robin Panzar 19th ahead of Roland Zux, who is in 20th. Johan Curzon had to pit in that last race, which wasn't good at all. He's ahead of Thomas Vack, who had a very quiet first race and not a particularly successful one. Henry Sinnick did, though. He's in 23rd ahead of Jan Wenginger. Nico Barkley, Jake de Stout in 26th. Nello Pastorino, Paul Augustin, who was the biggest mover forward in the first race, and Cam Roger, who props up the grid here once again. More action, more excitement expected in this second 45-minute race. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Absolutely, yeah. We've seen loads of action in the first 15 minutes with 45 more ahead of us. We're going to see plenty more, especially from this man, Erhan Yujovski. Saw him on pole, run away with it in race 1. Now he's going to make some overtakes if he wants to do it again in race 2. We saw him making the moves last time out at Monza, managing to finish on the podium then. We'll be aiming for that once again this time. And what can that man alongside do? Ruby in the Audi alongside, of course, with that stellar qualifying performance and managing to hold on for the podium in race 1 as well. Whether he will be carving the way for Erhan Yujovski or following him through remains to be seen, because Yujovski does have to get past him first. But there's plenty of action up ahead, and as you can see, it's still absolutely soaking wet here at Sebring. Just to add that extra element of difficulty and surprise throughout the grid. Visibility, once again, really not very helpful for these drivers. You can barely see 2 cars in front of you as we head down towards sunset, getting ready to start the race.
We are indeed 4th race of this season, round 2, race 2, the main race here at Sebring. And as I mentioned, the 4th race, but the first time that a Porsche has led us to green. It's going to be Daniel Stopowski with the inside line going into turn 1, and we saw how advantageous that inside line was here in the sprint race a little bit earlier on. Multiple guys putting that to very good use indeed. We'll see if Daniel Stopowski can convert from this pole position to a lap 1 lead. He's got Philip Dreas alongside him, Remy Delorme and Adam Baldwin just in behind. 45 minutes of racing at Sebring. It's underway now. It's a good stop from everybody in behind, and not a great one from the front rows. Daniel Stopowski on the inside line is going to try. Oh, Krupi's gone steaming in, and there's a bit of contact. Let's hope they all get through there safely. Philip Drace has made a great start. He's in the lead again. From what we saw in Monza, it's no surprise at all. Daniel Stopowski is in 2nd place. Remy Delorme is in 3rd. Christian Mikel, flying start. 4th place for him. Rory McDuff, likewise. 5 places gained for him. Erhan Yujovski's gone absolutely nowhere. Zoltan Varking, he's staying where he is as well. Naito Velix have had a stormer early on here.
Yeah, we saw Adam Baldwin's drop down to 12th. We saw just as they were coming out of turn 1, he was forced out wide, and that's cost him a fair few positions. And Jimi Nisula has managed to nip in ahead of Erhan Yujovski. You can tell from that inside line that was a big drift as we are on board with Hakkinen now. Being very close to the back of his teammate there, and Krupi's going to be just behind, sniffing around, trying to make some more positions. And to answer that question, is it going to be Krupi leading Yujovski through the field, or is it going to be the other way around at the moment? Ruby has stayed ahead, but he has just started a battle now with Nisha. You can see them swapping positions constantly on the timing board. And there they are, side by side. Up ahead, that's Mikel up the inside of Ruby Delorme.
Oh, good cutback. Very good cutback from Remy Delorme, and he's going to try and get through again here as they go through the very fast left-handers. They squeeze each other on the way in as well. There's a bit of grass that you don't want to be clipping on the right-hand side, but Delorme's held it there nicely. Inside line for the final bit of chicanes here into Le Mans as well. Getting in towards the Ullman Straight and Sunset Bend, of course, but single filing themselves out finally. Rory McDuff, 11th place on the grid, but 5th place at the end of lap 1, it looks like. Zoltan Varkingi, the latest victim to move down to 6th. Turk Hagenen's made a good start, although we're on board with McDuff right now, defending a little bit from Varkingi, who looks like trying to make a move here into Sunset Bend. He doesn't look like he's been too successful. He's trying to hang it around the outside. This would be quite spectacular if he's able to. Not quite. He's going to go for the cutback instead. It only gives him the outside line for turn 1 though, and it's difficult to see a move being made through there either. He's got to be careful of Turka Hakkinen here, because Hakkinen could very well get involved. Varkingi breaks early though, and very smart indeed. Very smart driving.
Sorry to talk over you there, Ewan. McDuff's had an incident somewhere through that final few corners. He's dropped right the way down. You just saw his name tumbling down the order. I'm wondering if we can find out what's happened to him in a little while, but he's all the way back down now, so that's that. Of the 3 Knight of Alex cars, then is now only 2, and of course that promotes everybody else up a position. So all the way down, you've got Nishal up to 6th, Varkingi 7th, Krupi 8th, and Yuyovsky 9th, and Baldwin into the top 10 now as well. And that's incredibly unfortunate for McDuff. We saw him having a good solid start to this race, and just one mistake so costly as Krupi now battling with Varkingi and going off, going wide in the background down to 11th.
Nisala went wide a little bit, and there's all sorts going on back here. All sorts happening. Yuyovsky's got 3 places in this lap here. Fantastic lap as we're on board with Adam Baldwin not having such a good time of things. Up in front, Varkingi, I believe that might have been the one who was going wide. There was all kinds of things going on, and Roy McDuff is a DNF. I'm going to speculate that there might be some connection problems going on there, although that is complete speculation. I've got absolutely no idea as to what the actual cause of that incident is. However, I believe it could be some kind of technical problem, some kind of connection problem going on there. Yuyovsky hasn't had quite a successful start as he did last time on the first lap, but he's made up some great spots in the second lap here. I'm sure we'll have some replays coming up soon if we can even take our eyes off this action going on up front at the moment. And here we go with a couple of things that are going on. This is Yuyovsky into the hairpin on this occasion, and yeah, let's wait and see. Oh, so Matej Krupi was going down the inside of Nisala there, and it's halted Varkingi all at the same time. Yuyovsky was able to walk through the parted doors there and get through. That's very helpful, but Matej Krupi, we saw it into turn 1 as well, just a little bit over aggressive maybe into these corners, into these braking zones.
Yeah, just I think maybe feeling the pressure a bit behind the wheel, maybe just trying to fend off those behind him, but carrying just a little bit too much speed there. Lost the back end, and that was all she wrote for that battle. Now having to recover a little bit down 11th as we cut to another replay. What was this? This is the onboard of Matej Krupi diving up the inside. That was a very clean move up the inside of Sunset. Showing if you can carry that speed and get away with it, that's how it's done. And he'll be looking to do that a few more times in this race to recover back to where he was. As we take a look at Christian Mikel now trying to chase down on Stupowski in that Porsche. We saw him leading away, and Philip Dryce trying to repeat 2 weeks ago, running away in the lead at the moment. Mikel's going to want to set off after him. As we've heard, that McLaren's got some race pace in it, so it's going to be a tricky job.
It is indeed. This pack right now are battling, but Philip Dryce is not getting away particularly at the front of this field right now. He's got on a seconds over Daniel Stupowski, but not much more, and probably should be getting more at this point. Stupowski going to be disappointed to have lost the lead so early on though, because he had pole position, and as we saw from Yuyovsky, it's very possible for you to be able to hold on, especially with the inside line, but Dryce was able to take the lead very early on in this race in the opening meters, and he hasn't looked back since then. Let's take another look at a replay. This is how Drace did it. Just swings around the outside, says thank you very much. And Stopalski, just by the looks of things, a little bit too tentative maybe into turn one in his defence. He's defending now though, and this isn't tentative at all. Christian Mikel on the outside line. Don't forget he started on the 4th row of the grid and he's already onto the podium battling for the top 2 spots, and we've still got nearly 40 minutes to go of this already enthralling race. He's going to go for a wide line on the entry and a tighter exit to get this traction on the Porsche, which is difficult to do, but the Audi does have some pretty good traction. Not quite good enough into turn 1. You wouldn't imagine. It's going to be a big dive into a very fast corner, and so he's not going to go for it, but Daniel Stopalski goes wide and opens the door for Christian Mikel, and he doesn't need a second invitation. Through goes the Season 7 VEC champion into second place, and now he can start to apply the pressure to the one-time race winner already this season, Philip Drace.
Yeah, that was a great move to capitalise on just the lack of grip there for Stopalski. He seems to be really struggling through turn 1 in this race. We saw it on lap 1, of course, losing the race lead, and then, of course, here on lap 3 as well, as we take a look back at Rance, and then back to this battle, actually, because Remy Delorme is coming up very quickly on the back of Stopalski now. He's had to defend from an Audi, now he's defending from the McLaren. Definitely struggling a little bit for grip to see just how little you can see from inside. This is on board with Hakkinen behind Delorme, and you just can't see anything in front of you with these cars going full whack around here. That's how much spray is being kicked up, so you really need to know your braking points around here in the rain, which of course is difficult in itself because there's very little grip out there.
Looks worse than it did in race 1 to me. Yeah, this looks worse. Yeah, it's incredibly hard to see. Stopalski dips a wheel onto the grass on the left-hand side there, and he's losing a bit of pace right now. Christian Mikel's able to get away here, and Remy Delorme starting to apply a bit of pressure later on the brakes, and the Porsche does seem to be struggling on the entry to corners, certainly, which is not helpful when trying to defend. You can see a real stack up now. Remy Delorme is here, Checo Hakkinen's here, and that's an invitation once again. Daniel Stopalski hanging these out for free, and Remy Delorme is also going to get to the inside line, but the Porsche's got some good straight line speed. Delorme without slipstream, as opposed to the other two in this fight. We're on board with Turco Hakkinen, who's going to want a piece of this outside line of Delorme. He looks like he's got that done. We're nearly 3 wide through Sunset Bend. This is remarkable. Turco Hakkinen goes for the widest entry you've ever seen and the greatest exit. He might have got it as well. Delorme tries to get through and he's just about cleared the Porsche, has he? No, Stopalski fights back with a bit of straight line speed and he's going to get the inside line for turn 1. Here comes Turco Hakkinen, inside of both of them nearly. He has to back out of the move on Stopalski as round the outside goes Delorme of both of them. Is he going to try and get them both? Oh, here comes the McLaren of Nisela on the inside. He's going to try and get them both. And he might well do. Delorme gets stuck on Nisela and they're still side by side. Turco Hakkinen wants a piece but can't find anywhere to go. He slots himself back in and somehow they've not changed positions at all.
Yeah, somebody phoned the police. There's been a robbery. Yemi Nisela coming up and absolutely stealing the places away while these guys are all fighting up front. That was the most opportunistic move I think I've ever seen, and he makes it stick in absolute style around Sebring. Just coming from seemingly out of nowhere in that McLaren, sliding on up the inside, saying thank you very much, and then driving away again. That was a phenomenal overtake from Yemi Nisela, and these guys still not done yet with Hakkinen coming under pressure now from Yuyovsky as well. Both of these guys in the Audis, of course, so no real car advantage. It's just down to who's braver around here at the moment, who can find the grip, and from the way the pace is looking at the minute, it could be Yuyovsky, but now Christian Mikel closed right the way back up onto Philip Drace. Of course, Drace won 2 weeks ago in the feature race, but he's coming under all kinds of pressure once again here, this time from Christian Mikel in the Audi, and we've got 34 minutes to go as we take a look back. And Yuyovsky now going side by side up the inside as we head into Le Mans and gets that position done, and that's P5 for Yuyovsky now, sets back off after Yemi Nisela again. Yeah,
Turco Hakkinen was seeing all kinds of positions changing there. He was trying to go forwards but ended up going backwards in this whole situation. 6th place for him now as Nisela was taking advantage of everybody. Speaking of bravery, by the way, Philip Drace is going to need a very big drive here to get the win ahead of Christian Mikel. It's going to be a big defence and it's already begun with over half an hour to go in this race for the NeveRacing.com McLaren. Over the line they go again and into turn 1. They've got 3 seconds over the pack, which is still being headed by Daniel Stopalski, but a tighter line on the exit from Christian Mikel. He's going to give him the inside line for turn 3, which is very important. Is he letting off on the brakes? No. Philip Drace cuts across the nose, brakes later, and slams the door in his face. So he stays in the lead just for the moment. He's missing a few apexes though. Certainly driving, looking in his mirrors a little bit too much here, and might be losing a bit of pace because of it. Certainly is allowing Mikel into this fight. Who's going to look on the inside line? He's going to dummy it to the outside. Is he going to switch to the inside? Not quite. He's just going to go for the outside anyway. He's level alongside, but there's no room out there really for him to do what he needs to, and he has to stay behind it once again. Let's take a look at a replay of this madness on board with Jimmy Nisela, because it was quite spectacular going on up in front of him.
Absolutely, you can see that battle going on up ahead. You can see just how far back Jimmy Nisela came from. He just decided to cut back across the inside, saw the battle going on, and took his opportunity, slicing on up the inside, stealing those positions away, and meanwhile the fight behind carries on, and then definitely makes his presence known as he keeps it up the inside and holds on to the positions as we take a look back now to just the battle for the lead. Christian Mikel still side by side with Philip Drace and getting it done. So much more speed through there that Christian Mikel was able to carry in the Audi. We said the McLaren's got race pace, but clearly in these kind of conditions the Audi's not too bad either. Absolutely blasting around the outside, and now as we get on to the Ulmann Straight, he's going to start running away. As you can see, that battle just behind them, Stopalski, Nisela and Jurowski picking back up once again, but this man, Christian Mikel, takes the lead of the race.
Yeah, let's see how it happened, or let's see how some of the battles further back happened. Erhan Jurowski, this is on Turka Hakkinen, by the way, into the chicanes at the end of the lap. It's very, very high risk going around the outside here. But Jurowski was able to pull it off. He's in 4th now, ahead of Jimmy Nisela. He's on a charge here at the moment. Christian Mikel, I think Philip Drace just got himself on the grass out of Tower Corner, because normally you wouldn't get such a fantastic exit to be able to make the move like that without a mistake from the guy in front. So I'm going to say that there might have been a mistake from Philip Drace in that one. Not saying that he's a bad driver or anything, just saying that he was under a lot of pressure there and may have just cracked momentarily under it. But let's wait and see. Daniel Stopalski is still holding on to this podium right now, and he's done a fantastic job of defending for the 2nd race in a row. We saw this a little bit at Monza, but we saw it writ large for us about half an hour ago in the sprint race earlier on. Now he's doing it again in the main race, and holding the 2-time GT Pro Series champion behind him, along with another one of those demoted from GT Pro last season, Jimmy Nisela. This is how Erhan Jurowski exchanged positions with the Finnish driver. Looks like a simple move into Sunset Bend. That arguably started through Le Mans there, and he would have got a good exit off of there to be able to get himself up the inside, but there's so much happening, it's hard to know where to look at the moment. You've got to say though, it's only a matter of time before Jurowski gets himself arguably into 2nd ahead of Stopalski, maybe Drace as well, depending on how he picks himself up in this race.
Yeah, it's been once again a stellar drive from the 2-time champion, just picking his way through the field, not being in any mad rush about it, just biding his time, waiting for the chaos to settle and choosing his moments, as I'm sure he's going to do with Stopalski as well. Of course, we saw earlier on, Stopalski's definitely able to defend in that Porsche, but I think it's an entirely different thing when you've got Erhan Jurowski in your rearview mirror, and that move is going to be happening fairly soon, I would imagine, and then it's just a question of how much further along can Jurowski get. We saw him take a podium in the feature race, having started way back last week. How high up the podium can he get this week as we take a look at another replay? This is Christian Mikel, and how he got that move done then. It was wide for Philip Drace, as you suspected. Just Christian Mikel cutting up the inside became the outside, and that was an easy move done. Just able to carry so much more speed with a cleaner exit, and around he went.
Yeah, straight through and into 1st place for Christian Mikel. We'll see if he can hold on. This is a little bit further back with Robin Panzo, who had a good Monza, but not a particularly great start to this one. 12th place in the standings coming into this one, but he won't be there if the points were calculated now. He wouldn't be there right now. Does need a good main race here, and it looks like he's getting it. that's not Cam Rogers, excuse me, that's Mattia Krupi in the Musto car, not having a good time of things. That was quite a remarkable save from Diogo Silva in 13th position there. Robin Panzar could just watch and hope that he wasn't collected in that mess there. But Mattia Krupi is not having such a good main race compared to his sprint race where he was very good indeed. This is Erhan Yoski getting in front of Daniel Stopalski, but let's watch for that Porsche coming back at it. On the straight here, it's a bit of a curved straight, but there will be straight line speed coming into effect. The brakes on the Audi will do him some favours there. Yoski, can Stopalski keep his nose in? No, absolutely not. That would be a very, very difficult task indeed. Yumi Nisola's going to try and take his chances now and follow him through, but can't quite do it. So the recent GT Pro relegation.
Stopalski's coming back at him.
Stopalski's coming back at him, excuse me. So here comes Stopalski, but has to back out of it, and here goes Nisola down the inside into the final chicane. And there he goes, straight through into 4th place now. So that was very impressive indeed. Yoski and Nisola are both now released, and Stopalski has got more work to do actually, with Hakkinen behind him once again.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm wondering if he's going to be ruining thinking about that move as we cut to a replay of Yoski getting past Stopalski then. Was down on the brakes, expect him to cut back across as he does. Gets the drive out as we come through that corner that's not really a corner, and just holds the inside line and gets the move done. But yeah, I'm wondering if Stopalski's starting to regret a little bit, as this was how he was able to come back at Yoski. Just Yoski going wide, a bit of an uncharacteristic mistake there from Yoski, especially in these conditions. He's got tangled up with him, in fact, and that's where he ended up backing out of it a little bit, just bashing side panels together and of course losing the momentum. Yumi Nishila was there once again to steal the position away.
Absolutely, it's a very good opportunistic driving once again from the Finnish driver as Diogo Silva. Oh my goodness me, that wasn't the best rejoin we've ever seen. And it nearly caused a big accident with Jan Wenginger coming round the corner there. I think that might be Paul August Lahn again having an absolute blinder in 18th position. David Koloksai has now got up to 18th and Silva gets shuffled back even further. Johan Kurzjan is in 20th at the moment. It's the first time we've seen him really today because he had a poor start to the day. But here comes Silva on Koloksai. A little bit flustered maybe by the events of the last few moments. Silva is getting right back on with it there after that mistake into turn 1. And side by side between the two of them here once again. Silva recovers and gets back into 18th position. Koloksai pushed down to 19th. The Hungarian really does need a good result if he wants to get himself back towards the top 10 after a disappointing first race. It is all going on, but you'd expect mistakes in these kind of conditions. Let's see what happened. Was it on his own? Did he get help? Maybe. It was just completely on his own. That's very rare to see.
Yeah, just losing the back end in the wet conditions, and around that McLaren went. So very unfortunate. Here it is from the outside. Yep. No help at all. Just ran out of grip, which is incredibly unfortunate, and now has a load of work to do to get back to where he wants to be. And speaking of work to do to get to where he wants to be, Philip Dryce, last week's feature race winner, now coming under all kinds of pressure. And Yoski's closed right up to the back of the McLaren now. One Audi's gotten past Philip Dryce already in this race, and I feel like we may be seeing another one soon. As Yoski definitely looks a lot more comfortable in these conditions. And with 24 minutes still to go, the question has to be asked at this point is, can Yoski pull off a double race win here? I'm probably going to curse him by bringing it up this early in the race, but he of course won the sprint race, and he's very swiftly catching up to the race leaders here as well in the feature.
Yeah, he is, but nearly half of the race gone now. Christian Mikel is not a bad driver by any stretch of the imagination, so he's going to need a big drive to get there. Would be very impressive, but he nearly did it at Monza. Although chasing down guys like Philip Dryce and Alan Baldwin instead of Christian Mikel. No disrespect to those guys, but I would say Mikel has slightly got the edge over them, judging by pre-qualifying, the qualifying so far, and indeed the standings and the races so far. But let's wait and see. Yoski's got to get past Dryce first before he worries about the race lead at all, and he'd rather do it before Nisola gets it. because we know what Nisler's like. And up the inside goes Yoyoski. Drace fights him hard though. The two rubbing door panels just ever so slightly through the right-hander there. They're still side by side, and Nisler is a class opportunist. He might try and get involved here, and this is what Yoyoski was trying to avoid. Up the inside into Tower. The two get connected. Nisler tries to get involved using his optimism that we've seen so far in this race. He's been fantastic in these situations, but the situation didn't quite arise. It wasn't quite right for him on that occasion. Either way, Erhan Yoyoski does get through on Drace, and it was a good fight in the end. He put up a good fight, did the McLaren.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking, given all of these opportunities we're seeing taken by Yumi Nishila, we might need to rename him the Cat Burglar after this race, because he's been up there constantly stealing positions away at any opportunistic moment he can, and it looks like he's about to gain another one as we head down towards Sunset, sniffing around the inside of Philip Drace, holding off for now under the initial braking for this corner. Of course, it's a very long corner. He may be able to cut back and get a better exit, or flick across to the other side to try for the inside line. Meanwhile though, don't rule this one out, Hakkinen down in P5 in the Knight of Alex car, watching these two up ahead, maybe trying to take a leaf out of Yumi Nishila's book and thinking about how he's going to be able to steal the position away from either one of these two in the coming laps as well.
Yeah, let's wait and see. Nishila's the meat in the sandwich, which he hasn't been so much this race really. Hakkinen is going to be trying to do Nishila's job, it looks like. The two Finns, 4 and 5 right now, behind Philip Drace, who's trying to hold on to as many positions as he possibly can, but things not quite falling the way they did 2 weeks ago. Let's see, Nisila, maybe a move into the hairpin. He's poking his nose out there, just moving in the mirrors a little bit, trying to distract Drace that little bit, but not able to get through on this occasion. Remy Delorme is not too far behind as well. After all of this, he's been shuffled back ever so slightly, but trying to get back involved in the fight now. Certainly seems that Drace is just making a few mistakes under the pressure of these guys right now. We didn't see him put under huge pressure in Monza. He was happy to kind of ride with Adam Baldwin throughout most of the race, and this is a situation we just didn't see. Nisela's down the inside into Tower Corner. Oh goodness, that's so close. And they did make contact. Hakkinen with a good exit with that Audi, trying to get through on Nisela, but is he going to be given the room to breathe here? Not quite, because he doesn't have the car alongside, so he's going to have to stick behind just for the moment. But this is really starting to hot up now, and you're thinking it's only a matter of time that Nisela and Hakkinen actually make their way through.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see on the Nishila's car there just how much he's been in the wars with these opportunistic moves throughout this race, and there he was again, climbing almost into the boot of the guy in front there, and definitely going to need to get the iron out at the end of this race because there's some crinkles in that McLaren. Not that I'm sure Jimmy Nisila cares as he tries to go around the outside of Philip Drace at Sunset now. Will he be able to hang it around? Will he try and come back? But of course, while he's doing this, Hakkinen's on the inside of him. And now those two are side by side, and Hakkinen taking a leaf out of Nishila's book. Then as we head down towards turn 1, Nishila's still going to have the inside line. Will he be able to be braver on the brakes? Let's wait and see as we go down into turn 1 then. Not a huge braking zone, and Hakkinen's still holding on to that outside line. I feel like these two could be side by side as we carry on down towards turns 2 and 3. Nisila just about able to get a better drive out and holds on to it for now, but if that's not a warning shot for Jimmy Nisila, I don't know what is.
Just saw how hard they were pushing into turn 3 that occasion, and Hakkinen sliding around because Remy Delorme is on his case now. Look at this in the McLaren. They've been fighting so hard that Delorme's here. So's Adam Baldwin, who's getting involved for Deuces Motorsport Club, but it doesn't look like there's going to be any moves down into the hairpin on this occasion. Things getting exceptionally exciting though up towards the front of this field right now. Let's have a little bit of a replay of Daniel Stepalski here. What are we going to see here? I think that might be Mattia Krupi just behind in the rearview mirror. You can see in the top of your screen, although I'm not entirely sure. Oh, it's a spin for it's a spin for Daniel Stepalski. He keeps it out of the barriers, but a spin on his own for Stepalski. It was pole position for him today, 9th place right now, and yeah, a real shame to see that his race is really falling apart, and he's having a lot more defending to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of defending, Hakkinen was trying to defend against Delorme there, but he just lacked on any kind of a really decent exit there, and Meanwhile, Bryce and Nick Nishula still fighting up ahead as well. There's action all the way up and down the field as we're now taking a look at on board of Jimmy Nishula as Philip Dreis looks to be going a bit wide there, the back end hanging out, and that is going to be Jimmy Nishula up to third position. Then can Philip Dreis come back at him into sunset? I don't think he'll be able to, with the amount of momentum he would have lost on the exit. There he is, just falling in behind. Meanwhile, there's more side-by-side action down behind. That's Adam Baldwin up the inside into sunset, and the positions changing hands all over the place. Yeah, that was Hakkinen going wide. My mind was trying to comprehend what was going on. There was so many things to process at that one point in time. And Adam Baldwin, who was at the inside, is now having to defend from Hakkinen as well.
Yeah, he's trying to follow Delorme through. Oh, contact! Oh, goodness, they've held on to it somehow. Baldwin keeps it on the straight and narrow. Hakkinen is able to get back through on him and off into the grass. Here comes Guillaume Mas just in behind in 8th position. Goodness me, this battle towards the front involving all of these guys has been absolutely phenomenal so far this race, and somehow they've managed to escape without a disaster there. A big save from Adam Baldwin especially, who was right out sideways, the man from Los Angeles, but gets himself back into the circuit without too many problems. Nishula's now on the podium, by the way, ahead of Dreis, as we just seen. Delorme and Baldwin initially got through on Hakkinen, but as you can see, Turco's managed to get himself back in front of the McLaren, and it's all invited Guillaume Mas here. It's been a really, really entertaining battle for these top few positions. You know, the battles involving Daniel Stipalski and Philip Dreis especially have been fantastic this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody really showcasing their talent in this race, which you kind of have to do when it rains as much as it has. And yeah, I'm absolutely loving the way these drivers are still just able to properly throw these cars around and make these moves happen on what looks like an ice rink. Because who's that facing
Hakkinen,
the wrong way in the background? That's Turco Hakkinen's gone round.
Turco Hakkinen has gone for a spin at Tower Corner, and he's lost so many places. Oh, this is absolutely disastrous for Turco Hakkinen. Dear oh dear. Jake de Stout we're on board with right now, trying to get through on Gable Hevesy to try and restore something for Nitro Velix here, because Roy McDuff, don't forget, is a DNF, and 2 of their cars now outside of the top 10. They are winning this one, but apart from that, it's really a case of salvaging something from this race for Jake de Stout, and indeed Hakkinen, who's gone for a spin at Tower Corner, and this is terrible news for his championship, no less as well. Came into this one 3rd place, only 8 points in front of the cut-off line with Roy McDuff in 6th place, but he doesn't have to worry about him too much, nor Jake de Stout, but he does have to worry about Jimmy Nishula, because he was only 9 points in front of him before this one. But I think his compatriot's going to be jumping over him, but at this point, if things stay as they are right now. Here is Daniel Stipalski defending again. This time for 8th place in front of the Swedish driver Robin Panzar for Burst Esport, not quite able to do anything on this occasion though in the McLaren. As meanwhile, a little bit further back, Krupi, Varkingi and Hakkinen can't leave each other alone. I think Varkingi has held on. Krupi has actually got through on him, and Varkingi has been shuffled all the way back from 10th place down into 12th in the matter of a corner. It's all going on still, including Turco Hakkinen. Wherever he goes, the battles seem to go with him.
Yeah, absolutely, and seems a few of the drivers on a bit of a recovery now. Of course, Krupi's dropped down after a little bit of a spin earlier on, trying to recover. Hakkinen now trying to do the same, as well as this man, Daniel Stipalski, also trying to make a bit of a recovery as well. And it's meaning we're seeing plenty of overtakes coming up. And just to update, I've been watching the timing on the left-hand side, and I'm wondering if Yovski may slow. I'm wondering if he's just had a moment actually looking at that. He was closing right away in on Christian Mikel, but not and lost a lot of time. So of course that updates live. I'm wondering if Yovski might be able to, towards the end of this race, be able to close that gap. We'll have to wait and see as it's yo-yoing around all over the places. They hit different corners and so on. As we're seeing a little replay in the bottom there of the move being done, and that was Adam Baldwin up the inside into sunset, and yeah, there it was. Turco Hakkinen going out wide.
This is Adam Baldwin with Turco Hakkinen. Yeah, you're right. So first of all, Remy Delorme got through, Adam Baldwin followed through, and then you're about to see the biggest wiggle that we've seen so far today. There it is, just in there, under a big hit to the back of Delorme as well. I didn't quite see that at the time, but Turk Hakkinen was able to muscle his way through onto the grass, but it didn't matter much anyway. He's dropped down, way down, to what is now 11th. He was 12th, but he's made up another place. Remy Delorme on the grass a little bit there, and Baldwin actually following. It seems to be the line at this point. These guys pushing so hard, it's just normal to dip your wheel onto the outside grass. Hakkinen's got his work cut out at the moment though. He's mired in traffic here once again, and it's not exactly like he's with much slower traffic, because Mattia Krupi's just in front of him, and Krupi was in second place in qualifying, so that's going to be no easy move, as Robin Panzar's trying to make a move on Daniel Stepowski, who's got the straight line speed on him on this occasion, so there's going to be no move here for Panzar, but another great show of defending here from Daniel Stepowski.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the widest Porsche in existence, I think, because as he's just desperately trying to cling on to whatever position he can. He's lost so many through this race, either through drivers able to get past him or that little mistake earlier on. I'm sure he's going to want to hold on to 8th position as absolutely long as he can with 12 minutes remaining. It may be doable for the Porsche driver, but Robin Panzar is going to be all over the back of him in that first eSports car, just trying to sniff a way through and steal another position away from Daniel Stepowski. And yeah, meanwhile, Krupi is just a few seconds down the road, and if these two keep fighting, that might bring him and Hakkinen in as well, so we may see this battle extend as we're watching another replay down in the bottom. That's Jimmy Nishila, and I'm trying to see who that is. He's sniffing around the back of as we swap it to full screen.
Well, this is Philip Drace. This was the overtake
we
saw
this was the move
earlier. So into Le Mans, just a bit of a slide from Drace, and Nishila was able to walk through that door fairly easily. There it is, just a bit of a slide, dip onto the grass, and then we saw the side by side behind between Turk Hakkinen and Adam Baldwin and all those guys. But here is Baldwin and Drace again. As Hakkinen is trying to make a move on Krupi, not able to on this occasion. It's all going on up and down the field though. It's difficult to these kind of races where you wish you had another set of eyes, really, because you kind of need them at this point. This is the battle for 5th though. Delorme's managed to clear Drace now. Adam Baldwin trying to do the same, because they weren't too far away from being nose to tail actually a few laps ago. So yeah, Delorme's done a good job there to get through, and Drace is doing a good job to defend. To be fair to him, he's trying to hold on to this top 5 spot, and considering he wants the top 5, of course, in the standings at the end of the season, he's going to hold on for every point he can get. It's 1 point per position at this point, so even if he loses these two, it'll only be 2 points, but considering the closeness of the championship, you do need every point you can get.
Absolutely, you never want to be giving away any points that you might be able to keep a hold of, because it could make all the difference come the end of the championship. But that looks a little bit wide for Philip Drace there. That's going to let Adam Baldwin really try and seize an opportunity, but difficult part of the track to try and get an overtaking move done. And that's, I'm sure Philip Drace is going to be incredibly thankful for. But you see Adam Baldwin just skipping a little wide of the apex there, just giving Philip Drace a bit more breathing room again. And got lucky with that one, but you can't make too many mistakes in conditions like these, especially the way some of these guys have been driving so far tonight. They've been very, very opportunistic and very cutthroat in the way, if you make a mistake, there's no second thoughts about it. They're going for that position from you, and no man has proven that more than our current 3rd place man, Nishila.
Yeah, he's been fantastic so far this race. Adam Baldwin's not been bad in terms of making these moves, and neither has Guillaume Mas, coming from outside of the top 10 to a possible top 5 if things go his way in the next few moments. You just saw there Erhan Yoski with the new fastest lap of the race at 2:11.5. He's on a charge right now, and we'll get to that in a moment, but here's Robin Panzar versus Daniel Stepowski, and maybe, finally, Panzar got through here. Let's wait and see. Does Stepowski go a little bit, way too deep into 3, and inside line for 5 for Robin Panzar. Nice move for the man who has spent 2 seasons in the GT Pro Championship, looking to try and spend another one if he can indeed get himself promoted here this season in Season 4 of GT Challenge. Let's go back to P5 though. This is where the battles are. Philip Drace, Adam Baldwin, Guillaume Mas locked together in battle here once again, although not really making any moves on each other for the moment, just kind of in this holding pattern. But it definitely seems to me that Drace is the slowest of this group, and Baldwin and Mas are going to be getting their way through in the next few moments.
Absolutely, yeah. It does seem like Drace has become the cork in the bottle a little bit for these guys, and just it's more a matter of when rather than if. There's 8 minutes of the race to go. You have to feel the moves coming soon as we take a look back from Philip Drace at just how close Baldwin's getting. Of course, Baldwin knows all too well in the feature races how to pressure an opponent towards the end of the race. We saw him doing it all the way through the feature race last week before having to settle for second position, so he's going to be trying to climb as high as he can once again. And speaking of second position, I mentioned it a little bit earlier on, and you touched on the fastest laps coming through, but Anielski is very, very swiftly closing that gap. Christian McCallum up front. Already down to 2 seconds, that gap now. It was nearly 6 just a couple of laps ago, so with 7 minutes to go, we could be in for a very exciting finish.
We very much could, and this is an exciting battle right now, squeezing all the way to the white line on the right hand side as we look at it. Adam Baldwin's on the inside, but it's a very tight line into Sunset Bend. You don't really want this, and he doesn't take it into the corner. Guillaume Mas is going to try and get a piece of this, maybe. Let's wait and see. Baldwin sniffing on the inside line, trying to get anything, any kind of leverage there maybe, but not able to, and Guillaume Mas not able to get the exit that he was really hoping for there. 4 laps to go, I believe, at the end of the start of this one. 4 laps to go as they cross the line just there. So still a little bit of time for these guys to make up some moves. Notably as well for Turka Hakkinen, who's trying to get through on Mattia Krupi for a top 10 here once again. It looks like Remy Delors made some... Oh, sorry, that's a lap car. It looks like off into the barriers on the right-hand side. At least I'm hoping it is. And not one of the front runners. Getting out the way of everybody though. A good exit from Guillaume Mas, and a fairly good one from Baldwin as well. This is so close for 5th place at the moment. Drace and Baldwin were battling hard in Monza, let's not forget them. They're battling hard here once again here in Sebring. Oh, Guillaume Mas tries to go to the outside line and couldn't quite do it. There wasn't quite space for his car, and he sends Baldwin pinballing into Philip Drace just in front. And now you can see the battle has really kicked off. Good traction from Drace on that occasion, not so good for Baldwin, who's having to defend into Cunningham, but nothing doing. The positions stay the same. Yeah,
this is so close. It's sort of like, a little bit like Guillaume Mas is pushing this battle along between these two McLarens. We thought that McLarens would be a little bit faster through the race, but obviously a few of these drivers proving he's got the pace. There's a little bit more of a touch from Guillaume Mas in the back of Baldwin, and yeah, it's just a few of these guys in the Audis proving that not necessarily the case, especially in the wet. As you can see just how much you can close up under braking on Adam Baldwin there. Really able to get back on the diffuser of that McLaren, and will we see him move into sunset? It's Guillaume Mas looking for a better exit and trying to go up the inside, but Adam Baldwin trying to shut the door. He's going to flick back across, very close. I don't think he's going to quite get a slipstream. Might get a little bit of one from the car in front. Meanwhile, Robin Pansar seeing this battle unfolding up front and maybe trying to do a little bit of a steal of his own, going right the way up to the back of Guillaume Mas now. So what was a 3-car fight swiftly becoming a 4-car fight, all for 5th position.
Yeah, absolutely incredible racing between all of these guys. Guillaume Mas, I have to say, looks the fastest. As fastest man out there on the circuit is Erhan Yoski. He's already won 2 races in the GT Challenge Series this season, and he's looking to make that 3 out of 4 as Jake de Stout DNFs from the early or the top 15. Certainly, that's another disappointment for the American. Oh dear, he's not had a good. Well, he's not had a good day. He had a good start, but. A good Monza, I mean, but not a good Sebring by any stretch of the imagination. Sometimes it just happens, and it's happened for a lot today. Pastorino, Asensio, Silva all out of the race. Nico Barkley, I think, is out of the race as well. sorry, not Nico Bartley, I was mistaken him for Roland Zooks for some reason. Henry Cynic and Rory McDuff, though, also out of the race. A lot of retirees from this one, I'm afraid, but great battling. Attritional racing, though, unfortunately, down the field. It was bound to happen, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course, in conditions as tricky as this, it's unfortunately just one of those things we're always going to expect to see at least a couple of DNFs as we take a look at exactly what happened to Stout up the inside. A little bit of contact, and around he goes, and into the wall. Yeah, and that is unfortunate for Jake the Stout there. They're just trying to make the move happen, not quite able to. And in the wet conditions, there's not really a lot you can do. It's like ice skating when it gets like that. You can try and correct it, but there's always going to be one place you're going to wind up, and it is going to be the wall, unfortunately. That's a bit of a wiggle there. I thought Adam Baldwin might be about to lose it on the curb as we headed into Le Mans, and that's wide there. Who's that? That's Pansar going wide, and Stopowski off behind him as well. Stopowski's been making good use of that grass on the outside throughout this race. As we've got a bit of having to use the picture-in-picture at the moment as Erhan Yoski, as the race starts to close, starting to get very, very close to the back of Christian Mikel, while we keep an eye on this battle as well. And it's all unfolding as that's another wiggle for Adam Baldwin there, going through Sunset. The bumps and the wetness really starting to prove difficult for these guys. And Adam Baldwin's going to have to start looking in his mirrors as we take a full screen look at the battle for the lead. Erhan Yovski all over the back of Christian Mikel now. And we were wondering if he was going to be able to get anywhere near him, and the answer was yes. Now, can he get the move done? And we should have possibly one more lap, I believe, after this one for Erniowski to get the move done. And will he be able to take 2 wins away from Sebring?
Quite possibly. Just over 2 minutes to go. Not very long to go in terms of laps, about a lap and a half remaining in this race, the main race at Sebring here for the GT Challenge Series Season 4. Christian Mikel has taken the lead early on in this race, and he's been leading for about 40 minutes, 35-40 minutes at this point, but he could have his heart broken right at the very end. His pace seems to be just tailing off because Jagoski has caught him. Nisela is catching them both as well at the moment, although at nearly 8 seconds that margin is way too far unless these two have problems themselves. It's Naito Velix versus R8G Esports for the win in this race. We've seen such fantastic battling. The wet weather has thrown up all kinds of surprises for us. Some big names far down the field not scoring many points at all, and some of the big names have risen to the fore, and these are 2 of them. Out of Le Mans they come, in onto the Ulmann Straight for the penultimate time here today, going towards Sunset Bend. In what order are these two going to be this time next lap? That's when it's all important. With 1 minute to go, Christian Mikel is going to be cursing the fact he's still got another lap to go in this race here at Sebring. Jurowski sliding his way through Sunset again and sliding his way towards the wall. Opposite lock, a lot of opposite lock, and not a good exit for Erhan Jurowski. He's lost a lot of time there. Christian Mikel has defended well as the first punches are thrown. Here comes Adam Baldwin on Philip Dreis. These two have been battling so hard all throughout this race, as they were in the main race 2 weeks ago, and the battle's still not resolved. It looks like Philip Dreis may prevail for the second time in a row. Let's wait and see here on that one. Guys in behind include Guillaume Mas, Ryan Panzer, Daniel Stopowski, and even Matej Krupi and Turka Hakkinen are in the background of that shot there. So you never know what kind of or who's going to be in the top 5. There's about 7 to choose from there, so take your pick. It looks like Dreis is going to hold on for a famous drive, though. He's been defending almost the entirety of this race, and it's continuing on. Christian Mikel's going to have to do a bit of defending here, though, from Erhan Jurowski. The gap is only 3.5 tenths between the two of them. We go on board now with the 2-time GT Pro Series champion, the North Macedonian, looking to take his 11th race victory in rFactor 2 official GT competition here, either in the Pro Series or the Challenge Series. He's oversteering again. Some of these exits are not particularly great. He spoke to me before the day about tyre temperatures. He might not have kept them in check, and Philip Dreis has not managed to keep Adam Baldwin in check, I'm afraid. He's lost out to him. Here comes Guillaume Mas on the inside line. Maybe a way through here, barging his way through. They bump and Drace goes wide. Oh dear, it's all falling apart on the last lap for him. He loses 3 spaces. Roman Panzer goes through as well. But here are the 2 leaders. Christian Mikel, not a great line. It's not a good line. And here comes Erhan Yayoski. It's not a good exit for him though. He's going to get the slipstream into sunset. But has he got enough time to do this? Is there going to be a dive from the North Macedonian on Christian Mikel? It's slipstream, he's gaining all the time into the very final corner of the race, and the main race is going to go to the inside. Not quite. Christian Mikel tries to defend, and he looks like he might just hold out here. He slides to Erhan Yayoski. He can't quite do it, and after a momentous charge, Christian Mikel's going to hold on. He's going to win the second race at Sebring. Erhan Yayoski misses out by just over a second. Yimi Nisela with a great job to get into third. Remy Delorme is going to be fourth. And these lot are not resolved yet either. Robin Panzer's going to steam down the inside into the final corner and bump his way through on Gil Mas into 6th place. What a great drive from Robin Panzer as well. From nearly 20th off of the start, he's right up there knocking on the door of a top 5. What a fantastic race. What a great end to the main race at Sebring.
Yeah, and I've been waiting for this all race. Ruben coming in with the slow-mo, and I'm not going to lie, Erhan Yayoski had me very worried with that slide at the end of the race. That was some great car control to hold on, and really gave it his absolute all at the end of that race. There's confirmation of the finishing order. Christian Mikel just about holding on to the race win then. At least Nigel Velix can take away something from this race with 2 of their cars DNFing, the other one not in the top 10. Erhan Yayoski finishes in 2nd position. Another fantastic drive from the 2-time GT Pro champion, with Yimi Nisela, the position thief of the day, up into P3. Remy Delorme, a solid drive in P4 as well. Adam Baldwin we saw managing to get ahead of Robin Panzer after his Philip Dries towards the end, with Robin Panzer just behind him, and Guillaume Mas in P7. Philip Dries, with that little mistake, does drop down to P8, with Daniel Stropowski with the widest Porsche in the world having to settle for 9th in the end, and Mattia Krupi finishing in the top 10 as well. As we flick across quickly to another replay from the back of Christian Mikel of this finish, and just how close, look at how close Yayoski got. That was so close to being an airplane crash for his sunset, and then a bit of Tokyo drifting as well to finish off its style for Yayoski. Look at that. So well held to keep it out the wall. I thought it may end in tears for Erhan. Look at that, just holding on. And that's some car control in this kind of weather, I'll tell you that. Carrying on the rest of our running order then, Turk Hakkinen P11 in the only other finishing Citroen's Nigel Velix car, with Zoltan Vikonyi in P12 behind him. Gabo Hevesi, the independent driver, in P13, just ahead of Nico Barclay, who gained a few positions, along with Paul Logislana in 15th. Liam Rance down in 16th, with Joran Kurjan behind him in 17th. Jan Venneger in that very brightly coloured Porsche in 18th, with David Kolotsai in 19th behind him, and Fabio Bella rounding out the top 20 of our grid. And then the final few cars, Thomas Vac and Cam Roger in 21st and 22nd, and then a whole heap of DNFs. Of course, we saw Jake the Start going off at sunset towards the end of the race. Nello Pastorino unable to finish, along with his teammate Henry sitting in the 2 GTCRC cars. Also, Yao Senshao and Diogo Silva DNFing from the race. Roland Zux not finishing from Mugen Sim Racing, and of course Rory McDuff going out quite early on from a reasonable position with what he may have been a connection issue, but we're still not quite sure. And what a race that was, Ewan.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant race, and fair play to Yayoski there, because halfway around sunset he could have easily just released the brakes ever so slightly, got into the back of the Nitro Velix car and bumped his way into the victory, but he didn't want to do that at all. Fair play to him for that. What a fantastic, especially the main race was absolutely brilliant. The wet weather never disappoints, and I have to say a final word from you, Paul. I've got to be honest, I need to lie down, but I thoroughly enjoyed those races.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those races you couldn't take your eyes off. Wherever there was something, wherever there were cars, there was something going on across the whole circuit. And we just had so much action to watch. And I'm sure we'll have some more action in just a couple of weeks' time, the 10th of September, when we head off to Lime Rock Park. And that'll be a very interesting one to watch, I am certain.
Yeah, it will. So will all the other races so far in the future of this season. We'll do some touching up on the championship, of course, and we'll tell you about that here next time out when we're at Lime Rock Park. So make sure you join us for that. On Monday we have Formula Pro returning here once again. Then on this time next week it's Formula Challenge. Then the Monday after that is GT Pro, and 2 weeks today it will be the next instalment of GT Challenge. So make sure you follow us on Twitch and on YouTube as well, to follow us around and see when we are going live for those events, because they are very much worth watching. Thank you very much for your company here tonight. It's been thoroughly enjoyable once again. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Paul Buckley. Ruben Correa-Alves has been on the cameras, and from all of us, until next time, it's goodbye for now.
See you later.